I got a wide open look. We're straight up with it, but we got the possession and, we were just scrambling after that, trying to get a good shot. JV got it in the post. He had a foot in the paint, just let him go to work.
Did you fumble that, DeMar, or is it just like the pass not there? What happened? Because you looked like you were open.
Yeah, I was open. He hit it out my hand and fumbled it. Then, we got it back. Then we were just scrambling from there on out.
Case said you guys, it's most likely you go into some kind of screen roll sequence. What happened after you got it back?
Like I said, we just scrambling. We that's not attention. What we drew up at first. But so we were just trying to improvise from there on out. But we shouldn't have been in that situation anyway. I should have made the free throw, tie a game, and we either go down and play defense. Try to force overtime. But
what did they do to you defensively tonight? Seemed like they were into you and made it really tough for you.
Yeah, they. You gotta give them credit. They came out and played extremely hard. They was real physical on the defensive end. They didn't let us get anything easy. Like I said, we knew tonight was going to be a great task for us. They've been in every single game they played against, and thus far this season against some great teams. So, that's what we got to be prepared for. Young teams coming out, being aggressive.
Did they set the tone early on?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they definitely did. We came out slow, trying to let the game come to us. But like I said, that's something, the coaching staff definitely going to be on us about, of understanding we can't start games off like that, especially, if we're a winning teams going to go after us more than,
You kind of got away. You kind of got away with that a few times already this year, right?
Right, exactly. So, like I said, good thing that it's early. We can learn from it and, try to get another one back on Sunday.
Does that kind of motivate you guys a little more? I mean, when you're 5-0, you kind of feel a little invincible.
I wouldn't say invincible, but sometimes you need that. It's always extra motivation you can find that's going to make you better. One loss not going to define us. Being 6-0 not going to define us either. We got 76 more games to play, and we got a long way to go.
When you have a play like that, when you're involved with, do you hang on to that one for a little while, or do you just have to let that go?
Mainly me missing free throw. That's the thing. I'm gonna dwell over the most. Just missing that free throw, so we wouldn't have to be in a position like that. That's the one thing I'm gonna dwell on more than anything. Plays like that when we lose the ball, scrambling, it's gonna happen. You really can't control that sometimes, but I control making them late game free throws.
If you want to be a contender, is this type of effort you have to expect from the opposition?
Most definitely. Even teams that's may be younger, may not be a high caliber team like all the other teams around the league. We got to be prepared for that because the great teams, they get on top of you 10, 15 points, they're going to run away with it.
DeMar played a big role in getting you guys back in. What has he brought to this team?
Toughness, capability to knock down shots, but definitely toughness on the defensive end.
Is he talking to you guys in the huddle when you guys got down a little bit? I mean, is he vocal that way?
Yeah, especially on the floor as well, to get us going, especially if it's offensively for me and Cal, he'll definitely speak up, get us going, make sure we on top of our game, and, he keep everybody in line defensively as well.